This video was brought to you by Squarespace.
Ho, ho, ho. I mean, do you need a website? Do you know how to build a website? Or does it seem like impossible, Santa-esque Christmas magic to you like it does to me? Because if that's the case, then you need Squarespace.
Squarespace made building my website, Arlo recommends, super easy. I mean, you pick a template, you tweak it to meet your needs, and then you're totally done. After that, everything is super easy. Making content is super easy. You can embed pictures and video and social media posts. You can integrate your social media to your website, so every time you post, it goes to Twitter automatically. You can schedule your posts to go out while you're sleeping, waiting for Santa. More Christmas theming. Even beyond the basics, Squarespace offers a ton of super powerful extensions and very extensive analytics. You can check and see how many people are coming to your site, where they're coming from, all that good stuff. To try out Squarespace for yourself, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. Then when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/Arlo to save 10% off your first website or domain.
And now for today's recommendation, Ho, Ho, Ho! The Snowman by Raymond Briggs.
Apparently this is a huge thing in the UK, but here in the States, not nearly enough people know about it. There's a book and a movie, and both are so beautiful that if you're anything like me, they will destroy you emotionally, which is perfect for Christmas time.
Thanks again to Squarespace, and happy holidays! On with the video! Ho, 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 ho!
In space?
It ain't no joke. There are about 1 million games coming in 2023, and so many of them look absolutely amazing.
I mean, the game industry is already huge, but it never seems to stop growing, and every single year it feels like there are more and more games vying for our attention. And of course, 2023 is no exception, with more games lined up than any one person could ever play. Even just focusing on one's own tastes, you're still probably looking at a very large list of games. Personally, I know that I won't even come close to playing all the games I want to play. That is simply the way of things. But you know what? It's still fun to be excited and to dream of all the amazing titles that I might play in 2023.
Therefore, I am here once again to share with you a list of my most hotly anticipated games of the coming year. This is my 2023 hype list. Let's go.
Okay. Don't laugh at me. I know last year I was talking about how I hadn't yet played Octopath Traveler, but I was still hyped for Triangle Strategy, even though I wasn't completely sure that I would find time to play it either. And now I'm back, and no, I didn't play Triangle Strategy, and yet I'm here to say that I'm hyped for Octopath Traveler 2. Bear with me though. It is true that me simply not playing Octopath 2 by this time next year is very much possible. Again, there's just so much to play, and making time for a long RPG is difficult. However, there is something about Octopath 2 that has me even more intrigued than before. The prospect of a new story with improved mechanics and whatnot is obviously quite enticing, especially since it doesn't seem like playing the first game beforehand is necessary. But honestly, it's the visuals that have completely captivated me. The first game looked great, but even just watching the short trailers for the sequel, I find myself gasping audibly at what I see. Some of these locales are soul-achingly beautiful, and the sprite work is as masterful as ever. Every time I see that you get a ship and can sail around, there's this voice in my head that screams at me to play the game as soon as possible. And it's funny. I can't even tell you how much of that comes from the big lizard monster in the trailer. Like, seriously, something about seeing that thing running through the trees, it just looks so good and so magical. I've rewound and watched that part countless times just because it's that cool. Ultimately, will I end up playing the game, or will other stuff around launch distract me, and I'll tell myself I'll pick it up on sale someday, and then the months will turn to years? I don't know. But right now, I'm looking at a game that is begging me to play it. I'm looking at a giant running monster, and for some reason, that feels like it's enough all on its own. Hey, I know it's just a giant lizard, but it's spice for the recipe. I positively adore Resident Evil 8. The gorgeous world, the refined gameplay, the genuine scares, the colorful characters, the fun story, everything. It's an amusement park of Resident Evil goodness, and easily one of my very favorite games of this generation. If it came out in 2021 though, why is it on this list? Well, my friends, that's because it's getting a VR version. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but isn't a VR version of a game just kinda whatever? Is this really worth putting on a hype list? Well, to answer that question, yes. It may only be a VR port, or actually not even a port. I literally just found out that it's gonna be a mode in the base game, but that just tells you how much I love Village. Also, many people still consider VR to be something of a gimmick, but a good VR experience can be incredible. The immersion factor is mind-blowing, and even just the simple idea of aiming with motion controllers sounds positively incredible. Will games ever become huge sellers simply because they can be played in VR? Will VR ever see mass adoption? Is it just a fad? And just like any fad, will it retract before impact? No one knows for sure, but I do know that I absolutely cannot wait to deeply immerse myself in the world of Resident Evil Village. Right after I shell out $1,000 plus tax for a PS5 and a PSVR 2 kit. Oh. I'm a little annoyed that I'm putting Starfield on my hype list for the second year in a row, and as you can see, it's dropped down a good few places. Yeah, they announced the game way too early, and it's been hard to maintain any real level of hype for it. And as always, we must remind ourselves that this is Bethesda we're talking about. They've got an impressive pedigree, but over the last several years, they've made so many poor decisions and turned out so few of the kinds of games they're famous for that no one really knows if they're still the same company anymore. No one can be sure that they even know how to make the kinds of huge open-ended RPGs that we want to play for years and years. Especially with Todd Howard going on and on about how so many people are still playing Skyrim that they're taking that into consideration when designing Starfield. There is a fine chance that the game, despite being a single-player experience, will be heavily monetized. Maybe not, but Mr. Howard sure is talking like it is. Despite all that though, I've still got to try it. I'm still very interested to see how it turns out. It's impossible to fall completely in love with games the way I fell in love with Skyrim and Fallout 3 and not be curious to see if the same thing can happen again. As I said last year, the simple idea of Elder Scrolls in space is enough to make my heart skip a beat. I just love space, I love sci-fi, and I love open-ended sandbox games. So even though Starfield has a lot going against it, it's the potential that still has me at least somewhat hyped to give it a try. And I'm sure a lot of people are in the same boat, so I have no doubt that whatever happens, the game will be a success. I mean, this is a big Bethesda RPG we're talking about. If brand loyalty has taught us anything, it's this. If you got the goods, they'll come and buy it just to stay in the clique. The Dead Space franchise. I know it went out, but it's back. Much like the zombies that so numerously populate the survival horror genre, this is one series that has dragged itself from the grave to give us all another good scare. Being the cynicist that I am, I would be remiss not to mention how it was ruthlessly bled dry by EA, then discarded when they had sapped it of the very last of its life. And as a result, it's been on ice for nearly a decade. But we can certainly all agree that it's good to have Dead Space back. Funny enough, I haven't played the original, but it's been on my backlog pretty much ever since it released in 2008. I mean, it was hot on the heels of Resident Evil 4 and is clearly very similar, so of course I was interested. For whatever reason though, I just never got around to playing it. Well, 15 years of procrastination are about to pay off, because now I get to play a fancy new remake. I actually haven't seen too much of the game in action because I want to be somewhat surprised, but everything I've seen and heard about the original makes it seem pretty terrific. Third-person gameplay, strategic combat, cool weapons and upgrades, sci-fi setting, and who could forget all the freaky, gross, yucky space monsters. I'm not a fan of gory games in particular, but I love horror and tension and danger and fighting tooth and nail for survival, so I'm really excited to give this game a go. And the cherry on top, it's a current gen exclusive, so it's gonna look nice! Oh, yeah. Oh, wait. Oh, nuts. It's an EA game. I said I wouldn't buy EA games anymore. Oh. Maybe I'll get it used. Probably won't play it for another 15 years anyway. Survival horror games are one thing, but straight-up survival games and I have had a rocky relationship. I rarely stick with them long, and over the years, my characters themselves have met many a terrible fate. Some were spellbound, some were hellbound, some they fell down. But it's a genre that continues to intrigue me, and I'm waiting for just the right game to come along and click with me. Nightingale has been touted as an open-world survival crafting game, and while I actually know next to nothing about it or the studio developing it, just the reveal trailer was enough to grab my attention. The game is set in this cool, steampunky, gas lamp fantasy world, and you can open up doors to all sorts of different dimensions. I really mean it. I don't know much beyond that. I just know that it's got all sorts of weird places and weird creatures, and it's open world and has some survival elements, and there's crafting, and yeah, just kind of seems like something that could end up being really cool. I mean, just the very concept of traveling to different dimensions and not knowing what kind of cool or scary and messed up stuff you're gonna find is exciting. So if the gameplay loop and all that live up to the cool visuals we've seen so far, this might be a winner. Lies of P, the amazing looking game with the bad name. Yes, P stands for Pinocchio, who is very cleverly the protagonist of this game. Not content to simply sit back, kick back, and watch the world get bushwhacked, he's gotta find Geppetto in a city full of dangers. The whole game is about fighting weird mechanical monsters, and Pinocchio himself can be upgraded like a machine, and the whole concept is just an incredibly cool spin on the story. However, I can't believe I made it 4 whole sentences without mentioning the real reason I want to play the game, which is the fact that it's basically Bloodborne. Lies of P is one of those Souls-likes that tries to be as Souls-like as possible, and I couldn't be happier about it. And yes, that means deep, challenging combat and all that stuff, but it also means a dark atmosphere and weird enemies to fight. This is another game where I'm trying not to watch too much footage because I want to be surprised by all the crazy mechanical beasts and stuff. It's all so moody and intimidating, and if they stick the landing, this game has got the potential to be truly amazing. I mean, look at it. It's Pinocchio, but it's Bloodborne, and it's got all these cool robot monsters. I absolutely cannot wait to get my hands on it. We're really rolling now. Them hype juices is flowing. Here's a game we know absolutely nothing about, and there isn't even any gameplay or teaser footage to show here. All we know is that Blasphemous 2 is coming, hopefully, in 2023. And you know what? That's all I need to stick it on this list, because the first game is one of the very best games I've played on my Switch. Blasphemous is a Souls-like mixed with a Metroidvania, which has proven to be a winning combination, and I've already talked about it several times over the last few years, but who cares? I'm doing it again! The combat is phenomenal, the difficulty is incredibly tough but totally fair, the world is massive, the enemies are gross and weird, and the pixel art is simply exquisite. Exquisite! Like, impossibly amazing. Yeah, even if we don't know anything specific about Blasphemous 2 yet, that don't matter one single bit. If it does indeed come in 2023, then there will be few games that I look forward to more. And of course, I've got my fingers crossed that the sequel will perform well, and that Blasphemous will become a long-running series. Really, if you haven't checked out the first game, but you like Souls-like Vanias and horror and all that, don't delay, act now! Supplies are running out! I mean, not really. This is a digital game. I don't know why I said that, actually. News at 10, your neighborhood is under attack. If this little Spanish village had a news station, that's probably what would have been broadcast when Leon Kennedy hit the scene. Yes, I'm talking about Resident Evil 4. After years and years of being ported to every game system imaginable, the game is finally getting a full remake. And yes, I'm very sad that they're redoing absolutely everything. Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite games of all time, and one thing I love about it is the characters and all their absurd dialogue. It feels wrong to change it. I'd rather they just redid the gameplay and the graphics and all that. However, I can't complain too much because, the game just looks so good. I am absolutely in love with modern Resident Evil, so even if I just take this as a new game instead of a remake, there you go. There's a new Resident Evil game coming in 2023. Yay! I mean, the RE team are so ridiculously good at crafting these rich, detailed, intensely moody environments. And the idea of seeing all the familiar locales of 4 given a full makeover and brought up to current gen standards? Oh, it's got my tummy all a-fluttering. Despite my inevitable gripes about dialogue and characterization and whatnot, the Resident Evil 4 remake is one game I am awaiting with great anticipation. Another one from last year, but whatever. It's Zelda. It got delayed a bunch. It is what it is. Let's talk about it anyway. The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Ganon's up to his old tricks, and it falls on Link and Zelda to ensure that Mr. Wizard can't perform no godlike hocus pocus. That's really all we know about the game at the time of this recording. I mean, we've got all these teeny little tidbits from the bevy of short teaser trailers we've been drip-fed over the last 19 years. And they all look pretty cool. But really, it doesn't matter what we've seen. It wouldn't matter if each trailer so far had just been text on a black screen saying, "Not this year, sorry." This is Zelda we're talking about, and it's a sequel to the series redefining Breath of the Wild. That's more than enough to put the game pretty high on any hype list. But even on top of that, while more recent trailers haven't exactly expanded on the concept, the whole spooky, gross, yucky, scary thing from the first teaser has still got me very intrigued. I love it when Zelda goes dark, so if this new one is really going to rival Twilight Princess and Majora's Mask in terms of dark themes, as Aonuma claims, it really could end up being something so special. Whatever the case though, after many long years of waiting, we're finally kinda close to release. And while I'm actually still trying to build my hype back up a little bit, I'm still putting it at number 2 because once the holiday rush is over and we start getting actual information about the game, I'm thinking things will start heating up. Like I said, this is Zelda. Like it or not, Zelda gets special privileges. Let's just hope Tears of the Kingdom lives up to its now staggering legacy. I cannot express how good it feels to be saying this. I cannot effectively put to words how incredible it feels to say that out of all the games that are, at the moment at least, expected to release next year, my number 1 most highly anticipated game is Pikmin 4. Pikmin 4 is real. It's been officially announced, not mentioned in an offhand remark in an interview, but actually really announced with a trailer and everything. And if all goes according to plan, I will be playing it sometime next year. Waiting even a few years for a game can be hard. 3 to 5 years for a full production cycle? That's really rough. 6 to 8 years to arrive? Torture! But in 2023, it will have been 10 years since the release of Pikmin 3. A decade. We think the wait for Tears of the Kingdom has been bad? Us Pikmin fans have waited a significant percentage of our lives for our next Pikmin fix. And now, it's coming. And I feel such joy, such happiness, such love. I'm overwhelmed with love. This is a love attack. Honestly, I don't even have anything else to say about the game or what we saw in the teaser or what I want from it or anything. I'm just so happy it's coming. I don't know if any game from any other series on this planet could so confidently secure the top spot of my hype list. Not even Zelda, probably not even Metroid. Out of every series I've ever loved, nothing hits me quite like Pikmin does. Nothing else feels quite so precious. And maybe if we didn't have to wait decades between titles, I wouldn't be this desperate, but we do, and I am. So obviously, the rarity itself is enough to have me counting down the very seconds before its release. In the year of 2023, Pikmin 4 will bless us with its presence. And everything will be okay. It will make everything good. It will make everyone happy. It will teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. And we can finally sleep, knowing that all is right in the universe.
I know, this much hype can indeed kill a person if they're not careful. But allow, if you're still alive, one more list of runners-up that didn't make the cut. There are simply too many games to only pick 10, so we might as well take a quick look at 10 other games on my radar in no particular order. Ravenlock. It's like an Alice in Wonderland type fairy tale in a weird voxel kind of style with a bunch of super bizarro creatures. I don't know anything about the game that can't be gleaned from the trailer, but sign me up anyway. The Plucky Squire. The whole picture book come to life idea has rarely, if ever, been so perfectly and adorably realized. Both the on-paper parts and the walking around the bedroom parts look phenomenal. Animal Well. The game's website describes it as a handcrafted, surrealist, pixel art survival horror puzzle video game about secrets. So if that doesn't do it for you, then, well, you ain't Arlo. Lightyear Frontier. It's a farming sim, except it's in 3D, and you're piloting a mech on an alien planet. That is such a cool idea. A Frog's Tale. Therapeutically pleasant pixel art, check. Cute animals, check. Paper Mario-esque combat and partner system, check. What more can I say? Planet of Lana. Another one of those beautiful cinematic side-scrollers. Also another game that's taking forever to release, but I'm sure it will be great whenever it does. Terra Nil. In an interesting twist on city builders, this one is all about bringing life back to a barren landscape, then packing up and moving on. Suffice it to say, there's one very specific anxiety of mine that could use a game like this. Mina the Hollower. Yacht Club Games of Shovel Knight fame, making a title inspired by Game Boy Zelda, starring a mouse. Once again, what more do I even need to say? Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. I really don't know much about this one, but the trailers have me pretty intrigued. Like, I don't know, it just looks like it could be a really interesting open world fantasy game, and it's something new, so there you go. And finally, Sea of Stars. I could go on and on about the people working on the game and how it looks like an incredibly high quality, modernized take on classic RPGs of the 90s. But instead, all I'll say is, look at that art. It looks incredible. Oh! That's it for all the 2023 games I'm hyped about, but please do us the honor of listing some of the 2023 games you're most hyped about down in the comments. Whatever you do, though, don't even entertain the idea of trying to play every single one of them. I mean, that many games in such a short time. I mean, you might as well be walking on the